Welcome to The Built World Around You, the podcast where we explore the people, ideas, and innovations shaping residential and commercial construction, as well as all the industries connected to it. Each week, we're going to sit down with thought leaders, rising stars, and real problem solvers tackling today's toughest challenges. From job site breakthroughs to boardroom strategies, we're here to share the lessons, the struggles, and the success stories that are building tomorrow's world right now. So grab your hard hat, sharpen your pencil, let's go to work. Welcome to The Built World Around You. I am your host, Bobby Thompson. I am the president of Thompson Group Ventures. And today's episode number 5, I am super excited to have on the show Tom Baldwin. He has been a mentor to me here in the local Maryland industry, and he is just an all-around great guy. I will tell you that if you've not been inspired to do more, to have a sense of betterment and growth in your life, when you hear the conversations that we have with Tom today, you're going to be inspired. He has a phenomenal background from his national building days to his regional building days. He is a consummate professional and high-powered executive. So get excited, everyone. Mr. Tom Baldwin. Tom.
Amazing introduction. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Thank you very much for those kind words. Congratulations on the podcast. I'm excited for what you're doing at Thompson Ventures, and I'm excited to be a part of the podcast.
That's fantastic, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You know, we have a lot to get into in only a short period of time. Episode 5, brother. I'm super pumped to have you, and I know that there's going to be more. We're doing this weekly, so if we don't get, we could talk for hours. If we don't get enough time to get into some things, we'll definitely have you back on the show later on, and we'll be able to continue the conversation.
All right, let's go. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, cool, man. So, I know you very well. I've known you for several years now, but for the people out there that are watching, new folks that haven't known you or gotten to know you, please tell us, who you are and what do you do?
Great. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a husband. I'm a father of 2 girls, local to the Annapolis area. I've been in home building for 20 years. Kind of stumbled upon the industry. I was all set, believe it or not, to work in the defense contracting industry. I interned at Northrop Grumman, received a job offer, and then somehow stumbled upon home building at a career fair in college, and kind of shocked my parents that I chose to go into this industry. And like you said in the introduction, I've been around national home builders, worked for a large regional home builder, we're a local builder now. So I've been around the industry for 20 years. I've done a lot of positions within the industry. I know a lot of people. I've had a lot of people that have helped me along the way, and it's a great industry to be in. I mean, I believe in the American dream, and I'm excited to be a part of that. I do think it's a little bit under attack right now, but I am optimistic about the future of it.
That's fantastic. So I know that you do, on top of all of that professional stuff, you do a lot of things here locally. You're VP of membership for the local Maryland Building Industry Association. You are I'm going to call you an ultra marathoner and an Ironman, right? That I know of, but I'm sure I'm screwing that up somewhere. So when you think of the built world around you, right? You've been doing things at a high level for a very long time. What's one project, community, network, person, or even activity that's made an impact in your life?
I think there's so many. So if you talk about, a community or an organization, so MBA, Maryland Building Industry Association, has played a huge role in my development. I've met a lot of people. I think I started coming to events when I was 28 or 29 years old. You walk into a room of these career people, and they look really scary. They're all wearing blazers, and you're like, "Hi, I'm Tom Baldwin. Nice to meet you." And what I realized from a young age is, if you're willing to put yourself out there and introduce yourself and ask for help, and find somebody you admire and say, "Hey, I'd love to take you out for a cup of coffee," or "Do you have 5 minutes to have a conversation?" And outside of a lot of things that you mentioned with the VP of membership and some of the stuff I do on the charity side, and I'm a father, right? So I say, like, my kids are my charity, in a sense that I put a lot of money out, I get a lot of smiles back, and more feelings in my heart. But there's been a lot of people that have helped me along the way. And, my big kind of nugget is you'd be surprised how much people are willing to help. And that's what gives me a ton of joy. A lot of people don't know how to get there, or even they just think, hey, I'm going to work really hard and I'll have this great career. And I think there's a lot of benefit to partnering with somebody or asking somebody that's been there and done that. And that's one thing that really gets me excited, is finding somebody that's got a high drive, that's willing to learn, that one advances their career, and is willing to just ask questions and learn. So if I could help somebody get where they want to go because somebody's helped me, that's completing that circle, and that gives me a lot of gratitude and fulfillment.
No, that's great. I appreciate that spotlight on, how you get to where you're going, and it's with help, right? Whether you consciously or unconsciously know it, there's someone that spoke your name, and this goes for everyone listening to the show, in a room that you were not in, or in a conversation that you had no idea, and that's what opens the doors, taking chances and seeing the value in folks. So when you think of someone in your career that's made the most impact, think back on your journey. Who's that person for you, and what did they end up doing?
Yeah, so there's two people that come to mind. The first one is my old boss, is Jeff Caruso. Amazing person. And the one thing that I learned about Jeff is this relentless pursuit of growth and betterment and investing in yourself. So when I met Jeff, I was in my late 20s. I think Jeff at the time was 50. At the time, he'd already been America's top home builder by Professional Builder magazine, was a top 100 home builder, but yet Jeff always went to events. He was always reading. Like, you see a lot of the books, behind me, like,
that's right.
You always have to grow and read. So, Jeff would always read. He was a big networker. He was a figure, like, bigger than life. And he would say stuff that you're just like, wow, he was a very genuine person. And I always liked that. And I always like to be around that. And then probably the other person that's made as equally impact as somebody very well is Chad Sandrigan. I would always call him like the bald Tony Robbins without the teeth. Chad is a amazing human being, and Chad will push you outside your comfort zone. And if you take one thing away from this podcast, hopefully you get a whole bunch of nuggets, but you will not grow in your comfort zone. And it's amazing how many people just they wake up, they do the same thing day in and day out, and never get pushed. And it's hard to. You have to want it for yourself, but you also have to have people to want to push you as well. And you learn a lot about yourself when you get put in those situations. So, you'd mentioned, hey, Tom, you do these ultra marathons and Ironmans and all this crazy stuff. And, this morning I woke up to run. My alarm went off at 5 a.m. I didn't want to wake up. You're a runner. Do you know how many times I've been on a run when I've wanted to quit?
That's right.
Almost every run. But when I get done the run, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm glad I did it. And the reality is, life is not always here. It's you have this like up and down, but the goal is your ups and downs, you want to go up, versus the ups and downs and you almost kind of live in this like this trough, but there's no growth. So when you seek out these challenges, and that's something that I learned about myself, was I like to be busy and I thrive off of challenges. And if I know that, that's my happy place. So, if I have a day where, maybe an employee comes in and there's a major issue, or I don't know, God forbid, I have something of a legal matter that I have to resolve. It's like, I've been tried mentally a lot. And, when you run and work out, it's more mental in my mind than physical. So,
absolutely.
Running is one of those things, or cycling, or doing anything, climbing a mountain is one of those things where like you want to test yourself mentally and physically.
Yeah, and I think that's key, right? So when we're talking about hitting growth plateaus, there's so many small businesses, solopreneurs, and larger companies out there that are struggling to understand that consistency wins the day. Is doing the things that you hate, but doing them as if you love them, and being able to do that behavior, that consistent behavior, that'll win the day. Do you find that that's the truth?
I do. So, and I always say you have to do the basics at a PhD level. And if for anybody that's heard me speak, or I've coached or mentored, you'll hear me say that a lot. That's not mine, right? So I got that from Matt Eversman. So that name may sound familiar to some people, it might not to others. So there was a movie called Black Hawk Down, and Josh Hartnett was the main character in that movie, and Matt Eversman, it was based off of Matt. And I met Matt Eversman, and you want to talk about a guy where you're like, in case of war, put behind glass and break. This guy was 6'7", 6'8", just a behemoth of a man. And he spoke, and I went up to him after, and I said, "Fantastic story." And there's a lot of parallels between the military and business. And I said,
Absolutely.
when it hits the fan, how do you guys stay organized? How do you bring everybody home? And he said, "Tom, if everybody does the basics of what they're trained to do at a PhD level, everybody comes home." And that's always resonated with me. And that was a parallel from the military world to a business world. So there's no one silver bullet. There's no cheat to get to the top. It's like, to your point, it's the basics at a consistent level, and do the things other people don't want to do.
That's right.
Most people aren't going to wake up at 4 a.m. and read a book. They're just not. Most people aren't going to wake up at 4 a.m. and go swim in a cold pool. They're just not. So if you want to look at how to be successful, just do the things other people aren't doing. But they're hard. They're really hard to do.
Right. I love it. I love it. And shout out, and I didn't do the shout out. Shout out to Chad Sandgren from Cannonball Moments. You had mentioned him as a mentor and someone that's made an impact on betterment. He absolutely subscribes to doing the difficult things like we're talking about, and at a national level, right? So shouts out to Chad. But when we think about the people that are in our sphere of influence, right? Who's a rising star in your sphere of influence? Who's someone that sets themselves apart, and how do they set themselves apart?
Yes, that's a great question. So my partner, Jim Schaefer, he's a little younger than me. I've cracked 40, I'm 42. So Jim's 37 years old. But, he's somebody you look at and you almost see a little bit of yourself in this person, but almost in a little bit better of a way. So, he's like me, and much like Jeff Crusoe in a sense that you're always looking to get better. And, you're always making relationships and networking and talking to people and asking what's their story. I mean, a great way, if you ever see like an old person that's like, at the coffee shop or the store, just or walk up and say, what's your story? I mean, there's somebody that's got 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years of experience. And the same goes true for some of your peers that, in these networking events. But, if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to get anything back. It's very hard for somebody to see somebody walk in and go, "Hey, that kid looks like he might be up to something. Let me go introduce him and let me help him get there." That rarely happens. So,
Yeah.
one of the struggles I find with as it ties into like the betterment or businesses in general is it's really hard, I think, for a lot of people to know where they want to go. So like that's the first that first step. That's that vision piece. Like, where do you want to go? Why do you want to get there? And where I see a lot of people fall short, whether it's a business or a personal individual, is they got this goal. A lot of people don't even write the goals down. They kind of like set it and forget it. It's not one of those, I believe you find what you focus on. If you're constantly looking at it, it's going to be top of mind. But then the strategy of how you get there, I think the how is just as important as the why. And I think oftentimes people or individuals are often quick to just set these goals, these BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, and not really come up with a strategy of how you're going to get there, or alter the strategy as you're going. Like, is this working? Is this serving me?
That's right.
To hit what I want to go or what I want to achieve.
So when we're talking about those introspective edits, right? You set that big, hairy, audacious goal, and you have the loop back as you're on that journey to assess whether or not things are working or are working, and making those incremental edits. Do you find that there's a sense of fatigue in that? I know a lot of folks, they get, dismayed by the struggle, that Sisyphus effort,
Yeah.
right? How do you break through that barrier, that mental barrier of the humdrum when life punches you in the face as it will normally do?
It's going to, right? And so what you talked about is what Ray Dalio calls looping, right? Where you make this progress and you come back and you need to loop back, right? Nobody, it's very rare you see a person or a company that's just on this straight trajectory and you're like, man, it looks easy. No, there's struggle. So I think a lot of it's like, what's the mindset? So, I like to say there's beauty in the struggle. And I think if you look at it that way, and this is just, it works for me, it might not work for everybody, but struggle is progress. And, I always tell my kids, like, there's a difference between failing and being a failure. If you're a failure, you just give up and you quit, right?
You've accepted it. Right.
You've accepted it. Failing is part of learning, right? You fail, you learn, you retool. And when if you interviewed, I'd say like the top CEOs in America, and they said, what's the number one piece of advice they can give? I bet you most of them would say, never quit. Don't quit. Never give up.
Oh, I love that. So I know that you personally have told your mind to overrun your body when your body wants to quit. You're, an Ironman and an ultra marathoner. Where do you go to get that fuel to break through that wall, that mental barrier, when it gets to that your body is failing? Because that's the worst, right? Embracing the suck,
Yeah.
for all of my military service members,
Yeah.
know exactly what we're talking about, right? but talking through when you have to go inside and you have to dig deep, where do you go?
So there's a couple places you go. I mean, obviously, some people say, "Look, I go really dark, and I go down and I start yelling or whatever." And there's times where I'm there, but I think a lot of it's this awareness, right? So I know you were in the military. Thank you very much for your service. We talk about it all the
Thank you.
time. But the teams guys, the SEALs guys, they talk about what's called this 40% rule. So when you feel like you're 100% on your rocker, and I'm going back to like the physical piece, right? You feel like there's nothing more that you're capable of doing. You're only 40% of what you're capable of doing. And I think that's important to realize. And that the one of the reasons why I do ultra marathons is because you feel that feeling a lot. And it's a big dopamine hit when you're at mile, I don't know, 35, 40 miles, and you're like, I have nothing left. And then all of a sudden, you get a little bit of nutrition, you drink some water, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour goes by, and you're like, wow, I feel great. And then that feeling hits again. So it's this constant thing. I also think having a good for specifically like for longer running, like having good training partners there to help push you, because there's times where your training partner will be feeling great and you'll be feeling horrible. And then for me, it's like there's no finish line, there's no top of the mountain, right? And it doesn't mean you shouldn't have reverence and love for what you've done, but there's no finish line. There's only the next evolution. So like one of the things that I do every year, and my wife, as I'm getting older, she's not a big fan, but I run my age, right? So this year I ran 42 miles. Next year I ran 43, amongst all the other stuff that I'm doing. But it's just that one little thing. It's like, hey, I'm getting a little bit better, every year. Now my times have gotten better. There'll be a point in time where I'm sure that my times will slow down, but there's a lot to be said for testing, and having those miles or that experience. So, look for opportunities to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Like, go home tonight and take a cold shower. Tell me how that goes. Most people won't last 10 seconds. Try to last a minute. And then tomorrow, try to last 30 seconds. Like, it sucks, but your body could take a cold shower. Your mind is just saying, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here.
That's right. So when you get comfortable in those uncomfortable moments and you find out that you could do it in that discomfort, you break free of those limitations, those self-perpetuated limitations. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So let's pivot a little bit and talk about personal and professional development, because we touched on it lightly. Leaders are readers. You're extremely well read, and you push yourself always on a path of growth. Why is professional and personal development so important?
Well, it needs to be important to you, right? I mean, just because it's important to me, it doesn't mean it's important to everybody that's listening to this podcast. So, I grew up as an athlete. I was extremely competitive. I played for a really good soccer team. I played soccer in college. So I always had this competitive drive, this like fire in my belly. And not everybody has it. I mean, I'm not saying you need to do exactly what I'm doing, but there are people that are out there. And if you're a business owner, if you're a professional in any industry, there are savages out there that are playing on a whole other level. And when when somebody like, Jeff Caruso, Chad, these are guys that pulled the curtain behind and said, hey, look, these are what the top 1% of people are doing. They're reading, they're networking, they're challenging themselves physically, they're challenging themselves mentally, they're giving back. Like there's, it's that old saying, like, hey, the fastest way to be a millionaire, just find 3 millionaires and hang out with them. You'll be the fourth, right? I don't want to like oversimplify it, but it's not that hard. And then you also have to want to do it because you enjoy doing it, right? There's nothing worse than, like, if you're not a reader, like I know some guys that try to read and it's painful. It's like nails on a chalkboard. They're just, they can't. And I was that way. I mean, I don't think I read a book, probably full through until I was in my early 20s. And now, I read, a book a month sometimes too. And it's just something that I like, but then my perspective is like, I'm a reader, just like I'm a runner. And if I'm a runner, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or I mean, some of my alarm clocks are crazy. I mean, there's some on here that are, you know, I won't show them, but
Right.
if you say I'm a reader or I'm a runner or I'm a businessman, like you will live up to that expectation. The other part is, write down what that means. What does it look like? I mean, I have a notebook right here on my desk, and one of the questions I wrote about 4 months ago when I was transitioning, I said, what type of leader do I want to be? And I wrote down, this is the type of leader I want to be. And I go back and I look at that book, and these are my words. I'm either living up or I'm falling down to what expectation I set.
And you're doing the behaviors that supports that future person or who you are identifying yourself as. If you're a runner, you're doing the things that runners do. Runners hydrate. Runners have training methodologies that they stick to for their running goals. I love that. And if
And,
you're a
and
reader, you do
yeah,
the things that readers do.
and there's days. Hey, look, we've all fell victim to this. Like, there's days where, hey, the alarm clock wins, and maybe I didn't get up to run, and it eats at me all day. So like, there are times, and don't get frustrated. You just have to trust the process where
Mm.
you're not going to win every single day, but if you can make progress every single day, those daily wins become, I mean, the compounding become really big at the end of the year, end of a decade, end of a lifetime. I read this great book called Big Five for Life, and I don't know if you've ever read it.
Yep.
Fantastic book. And the main character, Thomas Doral, in the book talks about what are called museum days. I thought that was just like completely awesome, where it says if you imagine your life at the end is going to be a museum, and if you've got a shitty job and you're miserable for 10 hours a day, you're
Right.
going to have a big section of that museum that shows how miserable you are. If
That's
you're a
right.
very charitable person and you like giving back to the community, then there'll be a big section of that. So my biggest fear that I have is not the fear of failure, which most people say when they're in their early 20s or 30s. It's like looking
Mm.
back and not knowing, and having the fear that I could have done more, I was capable of more and didn't do it. So when you look at it in that context of museum days, you're like, how do you make as big of an impact as you can with those around you in the short amount of time that we have?
No, I love that. And I think that along the way, as you're curating your museum and you're having gratitude for those things, right? And you're able to take that step back and introspectively look at how far you've come, right? Those are small wins that, like you're saying, compound on themselves even throughout the process. You don't have to wait until the end. You should be having an attitude of gratitude fully along the way.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I love mentoring or coaching, younger people that are in the early stages of their career. And one of the first things, and I think I might even have done this with you, I'm like, take out a
That's
piece
right.
of paper and write down everything you want to accomplish in your life, and it could be short term, long term, and don't worry about the how, right? Because you're going to fall to the tyranny of the how. Like, how am I going to do it? Like, I don't have time, I don't have money, I can't, whatever that is. And then you start mapping that out, and you're like, one of mine is crazy, like, I want to be a grandfather. Like, not, I mean, kids are young, but like, hopefully they'll have kids in their like 20s. But like for me, that's really important to me. One would be, I want to sail a catamaran around the Virgin Islands, which is crazy. I wrote it down 7 years ago. I'm doing it. I'm doing it this March. So
That's
there's
awesome.
power. There's power in the planning, and nothing will happen by accident. And I go back to, if you leave Maryland and drive to California, you're gonna, back in the day, I looked at maps. Now you just put it in MapQuest, but you're gonna map out how you get there, right?
Absolutely.
Most people won't. Most people will not map out their life, which is just what's going to happen. They're going to live with regret. They're going to wake up one day and go, holy crap, that went by really quick. I wish I would have done this, this, and this.
You're
And
right.
that's to me, that's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is sad, but it's stuck in I said the continuum of that hamster wheel, right?
Yeah.
They get up, they go to a job they don't like, they come home, they eat, they go to sleep, they rinse, repeat because they don't take that stock, do that step. And you absolutely did that with me, and it's been one of the greatest things that I've been able to not only use in my own personal life and career but share with others that I mentor. So for that, I thank you for that because it's definitely a game changer. If you folks that are listening to the show, if you haven't asked yourself, what do you want? and you haven't actually written down goals, and you haven't done micro goals and all the good things that goes along with planning, you're cutting yourself short. So
Yeah,
highly recommend that.
yeah, we start with what I call the goal freestyle, right? And that's what we
Okay.
did. And then each year we come up with there's goals within these categories, right? So you've got, obviously health, everybody has that, family, contributions, career goals. A lot of people have financial goals. I have one that I call core memories, and these are like these big, days that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And then you start writing down like, hey, I want to earn this much. I want to mentor this many people. I want to take a vacation here. And it's crazy to go back to the power of the pen when you write something down. And the reason why I like the placemat is because it's always in front of you. I recommend you leave it on your desk, you look at it every day, and you're like, one of mine this year is like, I want to give blood. That's how I want to contribute, because my wife says I've never given blood. So like I wrote it down, and every time I look at it, I'm like, I haven't given blood yet. Now there's still time left in the year, but something as simple as that, like that could help save somebody's life. And I'm like, I didn't really, for years, I'm like, I didn't think it was that important, but
Well,
it is.
I love that. I love that. I will tell you that you should not have told me that, because the NBIA blood drive is coming. It happens around October 31st every year for Halloween. The Red Cross blood drive is coming.
Do you want to hear the worst? You want to hear the worst part? Is I'm at this conference with our executive team in Denver, so I wanted to attend that. It's just the time didn't work out, so I need to find another. Unless you could hold the blood bags for another couple of days, I got to find something else. I mean, that's a small one. And my point behind like the give blood, it doesn't need to be this like, each one of these categories doesn't need to be this massive goal.
Right.
Now you should have stuff that stretches you and makes you uncomfortable and gets you outside your comfort zone. But like some of my little stuff is like, take a walk with my wife 3 days a week. Like we have a dog, we have a place to walk. Like as simple as that sounds, but we have great conversations on that walk, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's, man, when you think of your partner that you've chosen, and you're not sharing those critical connective tissue moments, right? Because you'll get busy in the day to day,
Yeah.
and not to get into like a relationship kind of counseling conversation, but it means the world when you can have those moments and have those connective tissue moments where you talk about more than just the tasks at hand, right? That's where the longevity is. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Tom. So I do have one last question. I know you and I could talk for hours, but one last question for you. When you think of where you are today, what's one blueprint, nugget, word of advice for the next generation that you would share with them?
Yeah, and this is, I mean, I wrote it down because I was thinking about it, so I wouldn't forget. And this is something that people always ask me, what's one piece of advice that you want to give? So if I was talking to maybe a younger audience or even an audience here, is my piece of advice would be, you will not get to where you want to go on your own, right? So you're going to need to surround yourself with people that'll help you get there. Now you play a major role in that. And the responsibility ultimately relies with you. But if you feel like, hey, you're this stoic and I'm going to do it on my own and I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to try to read this book and I'm going to try to network there, and go back to what I said earlier. If you ask for help, people will help you. People have helped me. People have opened doors for me. And I'll tell you what, when you just told me that, hey, remember when I did the goal freestyle with you and you're like, I showed other people. Man, I'm winning. Like that makes me feel amazing, right? And there's other people that, if you give them an opportunity to help, they'll help you out, and they'll feel really good about it. They'll have an intrinsic pride seeing like, hey, Bobby actually took what I asked him to do, and told him that this is going to move the needle in his life, and he's succeeding, he's killing it. I mean, it's been a great pleasure watching you. You get the podcast, you get your own company now. It's been rewarding seeing your career develop. So congratulations to you.
Thank you very much, man. That means a lot. I truly appreciate you. Well, thank you again for coming on and all that you do both locally and nationally, Tom, to inspire those to reach higher heights. If somebody wanted to contact you or get a hold of you or interact with you, how could they do that?
Great. So I'm on LinkedIn, Tom Baldwin. I mean, I could put my cell phone number out there,
Don't do
but I don't want to do that.
Don't do
I would,
that.
and I'm not a massive social media person, although I'm getting back into it. But I would say direct message me on LinkedIn. I check it pretty much daily. So
That's fantastic. So thank you once again, Tom, for joining the show. We'll catch you next time. All right, folks. So again, we keep bringing the episodes with those folks that you may or may not have known are doing great things, both in and around the world, that you are building in, right? And so if you haven't seen someone that you want to see, drop us a comment. Who would you like to see on the show next? But until next time, please like, comment, share, so that way others can get involved. And until next time, we'll see you on the built world around you. Thank you for listening to The Built World Around You. If today's conversation gave you new insights or sparked fresh ideas, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps more builders, leaders, and innovators join the conversation. Until next time, keep building smarter, leading stronger, and shaping the world around you.